I refuse to allow my parents to sleep in the same bed, plus all updates. I think you know where this is going, but there's no definitive answer on who's in the wrong. Also, for simplicity's sake, I'll be saying parents, but it is my mother and stepfather. My mother and stepdad have been together since I was little. So I'm a 25-year-old woman with 2 older siblings, both male. When we were growing up, we were never allowed girlfriends or boyfriends to spend the night, which I felt was fair enough. When my brothers got to about 16, however, their girlfriends were allowed to spend nights, but they had to sleep in the spare room. Again, fair. That makes sense to me. I was always somewhat of a tomboy, so, as you can imagine, teen boys didn't show much interest in me romantically, so I didn't get my first boyfriend until I was already 18. My parents wouldn't allow him to spend the night at all, despite us both being over 18. I wouldn't have minded if my brothers had been held to that standard, but I felt as if they were favored over me. It isn't even because they disliked my boyfriend at the time either. Everyone seemed to love him. That relationship didn't last more than 6-ish months, so I dropped it after a while. I got with my now fiancé when I was 22, and we've been engaged for a year. We're getting married in only a few months. Still, just like every time before, my parents wouldn't allow him to spend the nights until a few months after we got engaged after I brought it up to them. It wasn't a conflict, but they knew I was irritated and allowed him to start using the spare room. We moved in together not long after, so it didn't really matter. Now, I may be an asshole. My mother asked about wedding planning. The first time she even contacted me since the move, and I told her I still had a lot to sort out, but I was getting through it, and she practically insisted on coming up to me and having a week of mother-daughter bonding time, where she could help me with wedding planning. My fiancé isn't a very social person, and is happy to be the moneybags behind my wedding decisions, LOL. He just likes to give little opinions, and I'm sure to include them when he does. My parents arrived and we spent the first day going out to dinner. I'd like to point out that the two aren't married and are steadfast that they won't be getting married again, both of them divorced already, my stepdad twice. So, as the night was slowing down, they asked to be shown to their room. I directed my mother to one guest room and my stepfather to another. We have a 3-bedroom with no kids yet, so we have the space. My mother said that there was plenty of room in one for them both, and instructed my stepdad to come in with her. I explained that, just like she told me, it was my house, and I didn't want them sharing a bed in my house. I basically repeated word for word what she would tell me when I'd complain about my brothers getting better treatment than me when it came to their partner. I told her that actually, they were in the same position I was in because neither of us were married. She tried saying it was different because they had been together for almost 20 years. I told them that it didn't matter because this is my house and my decision is final, just like how my mother would shut down any discussions about it back then. I was sure to mention how my brothers were allowed their partners, and I wasn't, but she claimed I was making it up. They stayed the night and left for home the next day, which I preferred because I was happy wedding planning on my own, and I haven't heard from them since. My grandmother has called to tell me off for it though, so I'm wondering if I am in the wrong. AITA? Edit. A lot of people are confused. At my mother's house, we were not allowed to ever sleep in the same bed. Ever. Only months after we got engaged did my mother allow him to sleep in the spare room. Also, I said I don't mind the rules they have. It's their home, but it was the double standard for me. I had to wait until 25 to have my fiancé stay at my house when my brothers could have whoever they wanted from 16. We were engaged by the time they let him. I was no longer a child, and it's not like I've been holding on to resentment for years after it stopped, as some misguided people claim. It was months ago it ended. Also, my intention was never to make them sleep the whole week separately. It was initially a, now the power is in my hands. Do you see the error of your ways? If they did, we could have moved on and laughed about it, and they would have slept in the same bed. Because they didn't and doubled down and started getting aggressive with me, claiming I was making things up, I stuck to it. I know I am being asshole, but am I the asshole in the situation I'm in? Updates. After I let the dust settle, I contacted my brothers and asked for their perception, and they mostly agreed with me. They said exactly what I said, that their girlfriends were staying in their beds at 18, let alone not even allowed to sleep in the house at 22. They mentioned that our parents only mentioned our disagreement once to them in passing when they got home, but once my oldest brother reminded them that it was true that they were allowed partners over as teens, they never brought it up again. It took a couple weeks, but my mother called me to talk. At first, she maintained that it was probably only a few times they were allowed girlfriends to sleep over, but I was quick to shut it down. Everything she said I had an answer for. I admit, stress from wedding planning was taking a toll on my self-control. It ended with my mother admitting that she must have forgotten it all, so I just left it. A win is a win. She asked if we could put it all behind us, and I said as soon as she apologized, then we could. She said that she understands how it may have came across as sexist and favoritism, but she didn't mean it to. They were just overly protective of me being their only girl, and didn't realize how that would come across to me. It may not seem like much from my mother. That's as good as a bunch of flowers and a please forgive me card. So, the wedding went off without a hitch in November, and everyone had a whale of a time. It was nothing short of magical, and I had all my family there with me. Couldn't have asked for anything more. So, to everyone saying how my parents were never going to talk to me again, and that I was prioritizing petty revenge over a relationship with my parents, please touch grass. If something so small would separate you from your family, that says more about you and your family than it does about me and mine. We all have faults, but come on, bit dramatic. There are a lot of people calling me a justified asshole, which I kind of get, and a lot saying I'm not the asshole. The ones convinced I'm being a hellspawn on Earth just make me laugh. People talking about how I have no respect. I respect your opinion, but I vehemently disagree with it. To me, I was just showing the same respect I was given. Thank you everyone that was invested. I really needed the validation that I'd done the right thing when my mind was all fuzzy and clouded from stress. General consensus is that I wasn't an asshole, but I was petty, whether you love the pettiness or not, and I can get behind that. Not the most drama-filled update, but I wanted to put a close on all this. Thank you all. What do you guys think? Let's discuss in the comments. Follow and like for more stories.